Okay, this is going to be a very, very detailed video, as best as I can, since I am not an expert on that opinion. But in terms of this, I am basically going to give a theory, please notice a theory, regarding the Cosmic Force, the World Between Worlds, and Snoke. So, in Season 4 of Star Wars Rebels, and quite honestly the best episode ever produced, because it took them 3 seasons and a half to finally get the show right. I'll talk about that one after the series finale. But, it introduced something that was by many authors and journalists and whatnot on the internet saying that this is a big thing that could change Star Wars. They introduced time traveling. Yeah, I want to dispute that statement. It's not that it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. It's just, when people are saying that Disney introduced this, it's not really true. You see, this existed in Legends, but the concept is a lot different in Legends. Whereas, in a lot of shows like Doctor Who, time travel is like one of the big freaking deals. And now it seems like the new Disney canon is going to do that. In Legends, it was a little different. It wasn't a big deal, like you couldn't go back in time and change events. Okay, how do I explain this? Okay, here's the thing. When people travel it through time and whatnot in the Star Wars universe, let's go with Legends first. When time travel exists and whatnot, there is a way to, quote, time travel, but it's not in the classic sense like Doctor Who or all these other shows or like DC Legends of Tomorrow. It doesn't do it that way. No. Whenever there's a thing like time traveling, it's not the way you think. Where there is a time travel storyline in Star Wars Legends, like Cross Current, but that really is kind of hard to define because there's only been a couple of occasions where someone actually went through time. One was the flight of the Harbinger during the Great Hyperspace War, which shows up in Cross Current, which is set in 41.5 ABY, except the Great Hyperspace War was in 5000 BBY, which is before the Battle of Yavin. Apparently, in this storyline, the Harbinger fled into hyperspace using a damaged hyperdrive, which I still do not understand, somehow caused both the Harbinger and the pods and the escape pod for a Jedi Master to go through time all the way to over centuries upon centuries to when Jaden Korr and his apprentices would encounter it and they would have a crisis on their hands. Another event would have to be Darth Revan, not Darth Revan, Darth Riven, I'm pretty sure I got that wrong, is when he was able to go into the future a little bit, revolving something regarding the Dark Staff. Yeah, I didn't really look at that, but apparently it involves the Force Storm, that forbidden ability in the Legends canon that even the Sith can't control. That's why they expressly forbid from using it. Yeah, it's kind of surprising. If they were able to control it, then they would have won every war. But even Palpatine, one of the most powerful Sith, can't control it, and thus future Sith wouldn't dare use it because it's a death sentence. So, here's the thing. Darth Riven would go forward in time with the Force Storm to the planet Rusan during the battles between the Army of Light and the Sith Brotherhood of Darkness, which I talked about a little bit in my Darth Bane story audiobook I talked about. However, there was a big thing. His Force power was drained by the Dark Staff, and he was easily slain by a Force-sensitive warrior. So, yeah. There was another character that went forward through time to 22 BBY, where a human male character, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name, engaged the hyperdrive on his newly purchased Delmendarian Starhopper, intending to take a short trip from his homeworld to another planet. But however, due to some faulty issues, he he experienced a 2-hour trip that took 190 years from the perspective of the rest of the galaxy. Yeah, he actually time traveled into the Clone Wars era. But I digress. There was probably other stories that were talked about regarding time traveling, but it was always disputed on that. But the most popular and probably the most sinister force ability regarding the word time traveling would be flow walking, which Jason Solo discovered and learned from his pilgrimage he was doing after the Yuzan Vong War. And here's the thing regarding flow walking. But before I get to that, there are several times where you could go into where some people speculate they may have went back in time, but really doesn't really prove anything. So here's the thing. You see, flow walking is a rare force power used by Agni T monks. It was taught to Jason Solo by them, allowing him to view the past and the future. When one used flow walking, they could change a person's perception of the past, but they couldn't change the past itself. At best, you could, leave an imprint of yourself. Okay, how do I explain this? Okay, I'm using the Wikipedia article to help me explain this so I can get to my theory. But, you see, Jason Solo went back in time using flow walking to multiple events, such as him encountering his mother. Then he went back in time again several years later to go back in time to see Anakin Solo and see what persuaded, Anakin Skywalker, what persuaded him to embrace the ways of the Sith. And he also flow walked into the middle of 2 Jedi High Council meetings. Yeah. And Taria, before this video, I was trying to pronounce this. Even though you couldn't change the past or affect anything in the future, and at best you could leave an imprint of yourself there, but really, yeah, you would just leave a blur. But it led to probably one of the darkest moments in the Legacy of the Force series, and that's saying something considering Mara Jade was killed. It's when how do I explain this? It's kind of fucked up in the long grand scheme of things. Jason Solo, who by this time is now Darth Kaitis, managed to manipulate Anakin Solo's lover, and really makes me sad about her character. Multiple times, he brung her over to the dark side and made her his apprentice, not out of the power of the promise of power, of greed, and of everything you can imagine, because she didn't want that. She wanted to see Anakin again, Anakin Solo specifically, because he died during the Yuzan Vong War. I've already covered that in the whole Star by Star novel, which I still assert is the best one, because it led to a lot of differences in the future stories. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that really made this really freaking dark. He used the flow walking to this poor girl who lost the love of her life as a drug. That's the vibe I got when I was looking up this stuff and was reading several things about it. He used it as a drug to turn her to the dark side. And here's the thing. He even tricked her into believing that flow walking could allow a person to go back in time and change their past. And thus, it could not. And Ben Skywalker used it to learn flow walking in order to learn when Jason Solo learned it, and found himself so overwhelmed that he returned to the present and vowed to never flow walk again. So, then Ben and Luke did it again to see whether Darth Kaitis possibly flow walked into the future as a means of infecting Jedi with Force psychosis. Yeah, no, that wasn't true. It turns out it was to be the malevolent entity known as Abeloth. But yeah, You couldn't change the past. That was as close as you could get when it came to, quote, time traveling. Unless it was a freaking mistake by technology-wise, that was as far as you could. You couldn't go back in time. You could go forward in time, but you couldn't go back in time. Except with flow walking, but you couldn't alter the events of the past. At best, you could leave an imprint of yourself. And like I said, what Darth Titus did, the real Kylo Ren Ben Solo, aka Jason Solo Darth Titus, yeah, that was possibly the most effed up storyline he did to this girl. Like, she just wants to see Anakin Solo again. She believed that she could change the past, but when she realized that was a huge lie and he was just using her, she turned back to the lie and everything just fell apart after that. So, in Star Wars Rebels, in the Season 4 episode, A World Between Worlds, we enter a mystical plane. And it apparently is related to something called the Cosmic Force. Now, in Legends, this was explained a little bit, but it wasn't gone into that much detail, whereas in new canon, it has. Apparently, when Ezra Bridger was hearing a wolf call himself Doom, which is basically Kanan Jarrus' real name, Caleb Doom, Ahsoka Tano speculated, yes, she's alive, praise thee to Dave Filoni, speculated that Jarrus' will had manifested within the wolf, as he was now part of the Cosmic Force, which was an aspect that bounded everything from the universe and was the will of the universe. Yeah. So, yeah, this was originally in Legends, but it wasn't explored as much. It wasn't talked about as much. There was just the Force. And the first time it was really mentioned was really Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 6 episode Voices, which was one of the few remaining episodes left as the show was canceled, sadly. And this led to The World Between Worlds, which apparently is a dark plane that was apparently might have been made by the Mortis gods that really has not been explained yet. This is all conjecture. But in this scene, which was freaking awesome, we see, when Ezra enters, we hear the events of the past, the present, and the future. We hear Yoda talking to children, indoctrinating them into his twisted cult-like religion of militarized idiocy of hypocrisy. But that's a different subject. We hear Jyn Erso claiming that it's time to fight against the Empire regarding the Death Star and Rogue One. We hear Kylo Ren. We hear Poe Dameron. We hear Kylo Ren saying, "Show me the power of the dark side, grandfather, and I will finish what you started." They just showed, yeah, we're doing this. We're really freaking doing this. We're going through time. We're going to time travel. And initially, I was thinking like, oh, is this going to be a different form of flow walking? Nope. Instead, not only is it a newer version of flow walking, you could interact with the past. You can rip someone through it and get someone out. Like when Ezra Bridger saves Ahsoka Tano. The one thing Ezra finally does right after 4 goddamn seasons. That's saying something. And apparently Sidious was interested in the World Between Worlds, as believing giving him would give him unlimited power and thus control of the universe, because, a galaxy under your rule is apparently no longer enough. Though that does lead to the question, does Vader know about this world? Because if he did, I'm pretty certain he would kill Palpatine. And that probably does relate to Palpatine in Episode 3 saying, "To cheat death is a power only a few have possessed, but I know if we work together, I know we can discover its secrets." Yeah, even then you're still kind of stretching that line because you said you knew, but now you're saying you don't. Though that leads to another question, how did Darth Sidious come across this information? Yeah, I still don't know. So they've established time traveling exists, and yeah, here's the thing. This is where they said that you could travel through time. Ezra was shown gateways that lead to different places of time and events. as indicated by all the echoing voices of Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, The Force Awakens, and not The Last Jedi. They did not want to spoil anything for those who hadn't seen it, but that's a different matter. All episodes 1 through 7, and all the Clone Wars episodes and Rebel episodes from the past, they were all linked to this. What does this have to do with Snoke, that, according to what I said at the beginning? What if Snoke used this thing? Now, I've always maintained the belief that Snoke is likely an original character. He is not Plagueis, he is not Ezra, he is not any of these characters. He is an original character. And I'm still on that prevailing viewpoint. Why do I say why Snoke may have used this the world between worlds? Well, this is where things get very complicated. As indicated, you could go to the future, you could go to the past, you can go to your current present. What if Snoke is an original character, but he's from another timeline? See where I'm going with this? Yeah. I am saying Snoke is from the Legends timeline. That's my wildly ridiculous theory. Snoke is from the Legends timeline. He's from a very far future in the Legends timeline, where by then the Sith are gone, there are no more Sith. Like, there's still conflict because that's inevitable, but there's no more of that dogmatic Sith religion that self-destructs everything. And Snoke was one with the dark side. He may have been a Jedi and probably turned to the dark side, and knew he couldn't learn a thing being in the dark side because there are no Sith, everything's gone, and any access to Sith knowledge is probably taken by the Jedi or have been destroyed. So he eventually learns through the light side knowledge of the Mortis gods. And it leads him on this mission to find a planet that would be eventually Lothal, but I'm pretty sure in the new old canon it was called something else because that's what they do. And during a huge battle at Likely Best, Snoke would have that grave big injury he has on his face, but he still found a way to get to the portal and go back in time. This is what I'm saying. He went back in time and changed so much of history to make things go in the Sith's favor that he basically erased the Legends timeline. Yeah, I'm really going with this. I know this sounds ludicrous, but now since they introduced time traveling, nothing's out of the realm of possibility anymore. So, yeah. Snoke is a byproduct of the Legends timeline, went back in time, changed history to such an extent that certain events were altered, people were altered, like, that led to that could easily explain, like, to me so much of what's wrong with the new Disney canon, in my opinion. Like, why do Jedi suddenly have guns if they never use it? Why is Thrawn here, and why is he quoting verbatim everything in that short story when he talked about mysticisms of the night in the Thrawn novel for the new canon? Yeah, that was actually said. I haven't finished the novel, but I did read reviews that said that they were quoting that short story verbatim because Timothy Zahn. That would also explain, like, Jyn Erso and Cassian. Like, a lot of people were saying that they remind me of Kyle Katarn and his girlfriend. Yeah, what if they were actually that would explain that part. That would explain why Kylo Ren is like Jason Solo, but secretly isn't. That would explain why Rey is so attached to Han Solo. Like, he was the father she never had. That would fix this theory. Would fix so much stuff that I wouldn't complain again about Star Wars New Disney canon. Like, really think about this. What if Rey was a nobody? This is what was said in the leaked information from the Star Wars Extended Edition novelization. Snoke claims that Rey is a manifestation of the cosmic force. Why is she a manifestation of the cosmic force? Well, apparently it was said that the cosmic force became dormant after the Galactic Civil War and was seemingly quieted to those who could sense its presence. And then turbulence happened within the cosmic force, coincided with the awakening of force abilities in individuals such as Rey, but Snoke is saying that Rey is a manifestation of it. who's to say the Force in this theory that the Force is fighting back against Snoke? He's become a paradox. He's not supposed to exist in this timeline, but he's so stubbornly stupid not to give up his power that he's found a way to cheat that, and somehow the Force is trying to find other ways to kill him. Like, that would explain why, like, I know, like, it was said that Snoke caused the connection between Rey and Kylo Ren, but I doubt that to an extent because, one, how does Snoke know her? Like, I'm pretty sure you can use the memories, but you would have to, like, I don't know, the Force and whatnot, they'll just say that as an excuse. But it would explain to me so much and would fix a lot of problems I have with the new canon. Like, why are these characters so similar to the characters in Legends? Why is Starkiller Base like you know, the Death Star and what was it again? The Starforge and the Sun Crusher all combined into some ultimate super weapon once again? Why are hyperspace weaponry able to blow up entire fleets of ships if that's never been established before? It would explain to me so much, and yeah, this theory is very ludicrous, isn't it? It's possibly the craziest Snoke theory I ever came up with. Wait, I've never come up with any Snoke theories because I just thought of him as an original character. So, yeah. Snoke might, but they can't fix the timeline. The Force can't fix that. That would be a drastic alteration. I think at best they could establish an alternative timeline where Snoke did not act on these plans and actually failed, which would honestly would make fans happy because that means they can still have their Legends material. But yeah, that would to me fix a lot of the problems I have with the new canon. It might fix a lot of problems other people have with the new canon. And I know, yes, this theory is ludicrous. It cannot really be real. This theory in no way can be real. But they've introduced time traveling. They have to have a point on that. They couldn't have just thrown it in there just to save Ahsoka, which I am grateful for. There has to be a point to it. Like, and that would explain why in the Aftermath trilogy, there's a scene, I believe in Empire's End, where Palpatine senses something. He feels some darkness calling out to him, but he can't make quite what it was. Who's to say that Snoke somehow finally figuring out a way to become one with the new timeline or something like that, and is starting to break through, but it takes some time. Like it said in the extended novelization of Last Jedi, that Snoke's rise to power in the First Order was a completely unexpected event. Yeah, it happened by accident. And all throughout this, Snoke in the cosmic realm of the world between worlds may have seen events, and he tried to make certain that while he needs to change events to fit things in his way and in the Sith's way, he had to find a way to keep things in balance in order to like get a Jacen Solo, but the Force is retaliating, and that would explain why Rey might be a manifestation, a reincarnation of Jaina Solo to an extent. Why people got that vibe from that. Like, I keep thinking that this could fix so many problems. And yes, I know I am just coming up with this out of the blue. At first, I was mad that they introduced time travel. I felt like Star Wars was a unique sci-fi franchise that didn't need time travel. But with this idea, and especially since they've established that multiple universes could theoretically exist because of this, that means everything is possible now. So that would explain to me so much why Malachor is a lot reminding me of Malachor 5, except there's no Malachor number in it. So, yeah, like, it could explain so much. It could fix so much of the BS I felt every time when I read a new canon material. It could explain why Legends characters are suddenly appearing in the new canon in a theoretical sense. It could explain why certain events have been altered. It could explain why so much has changed. And when the Cosmic Force realized that Snoke has to die to remove him as a paradox, it's already too late. And yeah, now Kylo Ren's in charge. But they got what they wanted. They managed to finally kill Snoke. Kylo Ren did the deed. Now, really, it could probably still help out and try to rebalance everything, But really, at best, it would have to cause a timeline reset just to fix everything. If they were really going to provide an ending to the new Disney canon universe, if they were really going to be all balls out with it. So, I'm going to admit this theory is very, 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 very ludicrous, very insane. I'm just thinking of all this, all these possibilities they could do with this. Like, it could also it could make all these AUs and whatnot feel real. The Infinite storylines they did. It could fix the Legends stuff. It could bring Legends back into as an alternative timeline that they can still keep the Legend branding, but they can still make stuff out of it if they really wanted to. I feel like this theory could fix so much. It could fix so many problems. It could be the key that saves Legends yet maintains Disney's canon. It could. It can. It should. This should be something to go with. So, yeah. So, I know I keep saying mumbo jumbo scientific babble. That's, yeah. So, yeah. And also, I got some crazy storyline ideas for my fanfiction series regarding these world between worlds stuff, and could help me out big time with the whole multiverse concept. But yeah, anyways, those were my thoughts on Star Wars, the Cosmic Forces Snoke theory. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. Stay tuned for more.